You survived week 1. We're in week 2. Yay! Debt talk. Before we get on to our debt, we're going to we'll do a quick review, and then we're going to talk about your findings and working through your spending plan together. The other thing, Penny's going to be running around with the microphone today to pass off so we pick it up. That way, I don't have to restate the question for the camera because last week's video kind of sucked with that. So we're going to do some improvements. When we go over the actual review, share as much or as little as you want about it. You don't have, this is kind of more broad-based, not specific to your finances, so don't feel like you got to share any more details than you want. With that, so last week we talked about scripture in our personal finance. There's a lot about scripture and personal finance, and then all the different types of budgets. The superior budget being the zero-based budget, where it incorporates, incorporates elements of all these different types of budgets into a balanced spending plan for you. And then really hit on that you have to make a spending plan, a budget every month. If you don't, you get behind on things, you lose track of your spending. There's a lot of leakage that happens. And so it's really important to ensure that you have this balanced, income has to equal spending every month. And you do that at the beginning of the month on paper. Okay. Any questions about that part of it, or good? Okay. So again, we're going to review homework. Then we're going to go over your budgets and questions. We talk about a little bit about consumer debt. What is it exactly? And then if you have debt, now what? And so we're going to give you a good strategy for paying off debt relatively quickly. And then, of course, you got homework again this week. I know you guys are going to hate this class, but every week we're going to have a little component of homework to help you out. And it'll be going through identifying all those debts and coming up with your plan. So with that, homework review. Question is going to be, what did you find difficult about this experience? What was easy for you? Were there any surprises for you? And do you have any other questions? So we're going to start up. You want to take actually, I'm going to have you go first, and then you're going to run over here, and we're going to go across, okay? So go ahead and speak your microphone. In your budget, was there anything difficult for you?
I don't know. You just gave me the stuff.
Yes, I gave you the stuff, right?
I don't know.
So it was pretty easy for you, right?
Yeah.
What was surprising for you? When you did your budget together, what was surprising in your expenses that you found out you didn't know?
I don't know. I kind of knew everything.
You kind of knew everything?
Yeah, you told me them before.
You didn't realize you had a retirement account, did you?
Oh, I knew I had a retirement account.
Did you? Okay.
You yelled that out like 25 times around the house.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Any questions about your budget?
Nope.
Okay. Let's run over to Eric. So Eric, same set of questions for you. What did you find difficult? What did you find easy? Any surprises?
Um, it felt relatively straightforward. Difficult, the surprises was kind of how. I think the surprise for me was kind of just how quickly eating out adds up. You don't even think about it, but as soon as you write it down and look at it on like the scale of a whole month, you're like, oh dear.
You find that to be a big percentage of your budget all of a sudden?
Yeah, much bigger than I thought. You don't even feel like you eat out that much, and then you write it all down.
Sure. Okay. Any questions or anything?
None that come to mind.
Okay. All right. Next. So, what did you find difficult, easy? Any surprises?
It was kinda easy to budget because I tend to make the same amount of hours at work and stuff, but I think what surprised me a lot was how much I spend on subscriptions because
Ah.
I'm the one who pays for everything for my family. So I have, like, Hulu and Disney Plus and everything. Um
That is a really common thing. Subscriptions really eat away a lot of the budget. And when you're finding leakage in your budget, you'll find out all of a sudden you have 17 subscriptions you didn't even realize. Some people discover they have 2 of the same subscriptions a lot of times. So, no, that's a good find.
Yeah, I think one of the harder things was, I guess, just, like, deciding on, like, some of these sinking funds, like, how much to put in here and how much to put in there, things like that.
Yeah. Good. I think sorry. I was gonna say you probably skip these guys.
Um, I think for us, the sometimes knowing kind of what Steven said, the estimating of um, how much to put in what fund on the sinking side of things is difficult. And like we moved into a house, different house a year ago, and that's changed drastically from what it was before. You know, yeah, I know a hot water heater is going to go out. I know the washing machine is going to go out now. Those things are accelerated given some things that are going on in our house. And then we've got a lot of changes, kids coming and going, and so that the dynamics of that to be able to estimate correctly, I think are some challenges for us to know how to allocate things better. We've It's been a long time since we've done a lot of budgeting. Shayla used to be really good at it, and we
Well, I bet Shayla's still really good at it. I don't think she used to be good at it.
well, fair enough. Yeah, yeah. We 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 haven't done it as much as we lot of changes. So
Okay, good stuff. Nothing? Any?
Okay. Well, I'm going to get an F in this class because we didn't do our homework, but we have talked about our budget. Like Cody, we haven't done a budget in a long time. I'm just going to be, it's been maybe 5 years since we've actually sat down and looked at a budget, and so it's. But the importance of it is very important, and we need to sit down and do these things. Christina and I have sat down and talked about it. I go through, seasons of spending. It seems like, sometimes I spend more obviously than my budget, and then other times I'm going down on budget. So these and I really need to balance that out and just, quit doing those high spending months, and, get through those sorts of things. So sitting down and doing a budget is I think it's very beneficial, would be very beneficial for us. We just went through, I told you a little bit about, we just went through the Christmas season, and right here, we just had we do have a credit card. We pay it off every month. We do carry credit cards, but we pay them off every month. But this month was exceptionally high because of what was going on. Um, what has been going on, in the Christmas season, and then we've had a few things that have happened. Our refrigerator going out, um, you know, things that we've had to work on around the house. So those surprises. So yeah, so we really need to go through these things, set these budgets back up, so that we're aware of what we spend. Dave Ramsey used to advocate for a cash, using cash for paying off everything, so that you knew um, how much you was going out whenever you pay these things off. How much spending you're going out to eat, these things like that. So that's something that we kind of gotten lazy about,
I and
not
I
tracking those things. So.
and I think that's kind of a natural ebb and flow as you get, pretty good with your budgets, and then you kind of get away from that cash function a little bit because the cash. I mean, you can ask anyone here today. Last time you filled up, did you use cash or did you use a card of some sort? And almost everyone's going to say a card of some sort. And I'm going to ask you, how much did it cost you? And you're going to say, oh, it was about $57 or whatever it was. Cool. What is it to the penny? Well, I don't know. And that's what it is. But I guarantee if you drop down that $100 bill, you'll remember that was $57.83 because you got a whole lot less back. And we'll talk about this a little bit, but there's this psychological function of I handed a credit card over and then they gave it back to me. and I got gas. It was free. That's the psychological disconnect of it. So I think that's a really natural thing. And then, like you said, the ebbs and flows of the spending that we do have those seasons where we spend a lot, and that's why we want in our spending plans this sinking fund thing where some months our spending outpaces our income. But if we've been planning ahead for this for the year, like I used the example before, Christmas comes December 25th every single year, so we should be starting January 1st of the year of putting a little bit every month into that fund, so that way when Christmas hits and November 1st comes in, you go, oh yeah, but I've got $1,000. I'm good. That's way less stressful than trying to figure out what to do and trying to pay this bill off in January. Sure. Good point.
Yeah, I think for us, we've always had sky high food. That, and I think, well, we're obedient to God, and He wants those of us with lots of children to feed them. I guess I don't know, but I think we've been blessed. But you know, Clay and Claire, we just moved them back into our home. They have mouths. We're very good about staying home. It's just I think that's been, you mentioned eating out is a big thing. It's our food bill is so, and we don't eat out very much, but when we do, it is insignificant. That's a good thing, I think, but it's not controlled. But we're not. We always go home and eat. I'd rather eat leftovers anyways. So, um, budget's pretty easy. We've always kind of dead man. We've always stayed on top. But I think, um, so that's where we're at. I think just the food is just not really. And I think if we're blessed, it'll stay outrageous. So,
Well, I guess Kristen probably has more to say about this. She's the administrator, but I think we did a good job. We got back, maybe spent a little more time on the details. We spent a little more time on the details, and then we're just looking at the sinking funds too. Uh, Things are shifting around, tightening up a little bit, and just trying to keep everything flowing and leveled out.
Yeah, I know Kristen is a bit more of the nerd in the relationship and drives the budget. So did you? So did you guys find anything particularly difficult about this, or 'cause I know you guys kind of already do it on a regular basis? But any surprises, really?
I just short income, but that's helping us. You know, we have been pretty good about having resources and 3 months 3 months emergency fund and things like that. So now the sinking funds are getting an extra hard look with this mode we're operating in right now. No question.
Kristen?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is just doing it. So, like, uh, like the subscription specifically, um, actually canceling them is pretty painful. Like the ones you really use every day.
Yeah.
But in the season, you gotta do what you gotta do, and, but it's actually really easy, like, the less income you have, it's a lot easier to do a budget. There's, like, less numbers to work with, so, you just yeah, so
Makes it easier to decide what actually needs to be covered.
Think what it was just doing it for me, like, I felt like I was getting in trouble. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna talk about it."
That's a normal feeling, by the way, when you come together as partners and do this.
Yeah,
There's some hard discussions.
I kept trying to, like, walk away, and he's like, "Come back."
We're not done.
Uh, I think the surprising thing was just how much we spend on food, groceries, and eating out business. That's definitely a bump, for sure.
I found it difficult, um, just the amount of expenses we had last year. Almost 1,600 transactions throughout the whole year. So I had nowhere to start, so I went through all my transactions from last year, got some averages of what we were spending on different items, and started that way. And I think what we need to do is cut back on those certain categories, which surprised me that we were spending pretty much everything we made, and so I have little to no money to save, which was I did find the Every Dollar program.
Yeah.
Very user friendly, very insightful. Question I do have is, how does the Every Dollar calculate the long term net worth? It was way more than I think it actually done.
The net worth. Yeah, I'm not sure how they come up with that calculation, to be honest. You have to dig into that because I know they have an sort of an analytics side of it. I honestly don't really look at the analytics side because I mentioned last week I'm kind of a nerd myself, and so I just do it every few months. I just calculate myself. I know what my debts are, I know what my savings are, and I just kinda do that way. I wouldn't necessarily trust that piece of software to calculate unless you actually input all of your savings or retirement for it to calculate off that net worth, if that makes sense.
I think with ours, with Cassie working and with me working, it's been very easy to go out to eat instead of meal prepping because both our times have been very busy. And so, starting last week, there was a sharp effort to make meals in the morning and not go out to eat 5 times a week for lunch. And so, when making the budget, there was, well, how much do we spend on groceries? Because we just started trying to meal prep last week. And so they're kind of throw a number up there. And it resulted in we're trying to make our budget much more strict than it was before. And so looking at it, I was surprised at how much we could put towards savings. But I'm anticipating a lot more. Like you said, the first month is going to suck. We're going to be way off. I'm anticipating much less to savings than our ambitious first month says we're going to have. But I think that was the big surprise was I don't know how much we're spending on gas, and I don't know how much groceries we're buying. But I can put a lot more into groceries and take a lot more out of eating out, and that should help a lot. But I'm anticipating our first month to our numbers to be really bad. So
Yeah, and then that's okay. I mean, just know that it's gonna be difficult, and if it doesn't match up, don't give up. Stick with it, readjust, you know? And again, at this stage, you're gonna wanna readjust weekly almost and see where you're at with things, and, you know, I'll tell you right now, I mean, for the 2 of you, $500 a month in groceries is probably gonna be pretty generous, honestly. You can do a lot cheaper. It just depends on how much suffering you wanna do in this effort, right? And, um, you know, and I wanna mention too, make sure you all in your spending plans, your budgets, put in walk around money. You know, that's gonna be your relief valve. It's really important that each of you have your set amount, and you decide what that is. I mean, when my wife and I started, it was $60 each a month that we had to blow on whatever we wanted. And it would tick her off to no end because I naturally don't spend a lot and I'd save and save, save. And then I'd go buy something big and she'd be like, "How do you have money?" I was, well, because I don't buy Starbucks every day. It's okay. That's what it's for. You spend on whatever you want. But make sure you have that pressure relief valve because, like you identified, you're going to crank down on this hard. And if you don't have that relief valve, it's really gonna suck. So, oh, good job.
So directly to what you just said, did you make your WAM money a fund so that it carried over?
Yeah, sure did. Yeah.
Okay, that I spend like you apparently. Um, what I found to be difficult and surprising was I'm hourly and we rely very heavily on the overtime money. So in planning it, I planned some of it in, but then in putting all the expenses to it, we found that just the basic expenses that we knew were going to hit every month got way closer to that number than we expected. I, you know, I know I'm gonna pull down some overtime, but I really didn't like relying on that. So we've been pulling back on some of that stuff to try and give us a little more wiggle room with that. We'll see how that goes. Like John said, one thing is Christmas kinda we had some expenses that really still hit, and we're like, "Well, does this count as a January expense?" I guess it came out of the the bank in January, so we'll have to we're figuring that out, but I'm really I'm really excited for February on when things settle out. Um, I thought the app was awesome. We did the same thing. We did the every dollar, and that did that and changing to that style of, budget has already just been a huge help for us straighten it out.
Good to hear. Yeah. No, that's great. And a lot of the comments, I expect to hear a lot about eating out. Eating out subscriptions are the 2 biggest leakages of a budget, hands down. So I'm glad you identified that. It means, you know what this means? You all did your homework properly. You actually analyzed your spending, came together, and that's great. Communication on this is what's needed. So good stuff. All right. We're going to get into the fun stuff. So what is consumer debt? Consumer debt is any borrowed money by the individual for the purchase of personal goods or services. So, auto loans, for example, student loans, uh, credit cards, which basically is like financing a steak dinner at 30% interest, right? Not really the smartest thing to do. And payday loans, which are even dumber because did you know there's no legal limit to what they can charge for interest on a payday loan? So you do the math on some of this stuff, and you calculate out over a year, you can be paying 1,000% interest on a payday loan. That is the very definition of usury if I ever saw it. So, I mean, that is terrible. So don't do that. Don't do it. All right. Revolving debt. It's a line of credit with a limit. Payments can fluctuate. So think about your credit cards, right? Every month, your payment can differ depending on what you're spending on a credit card. Then you have non-revolving debt, which is a fixed amount loan. So your houses, auto loans are kind of the example of a fixed debt, non-revolving debt. Those are really the only 2 types of debt you have in general, how they're treated payment-wise. Debt leads to stress. How stressful is everyone when you got a bunch of debt? Wondering how you're going to make things meet. Debt leads to money fights. It does. You're in constant debt. This creeps up. Guess what money fights leads to almost all the time? Divorce. Leading cause of divorce in America today are fights over money. We see it all the time. If as a couple you can't agree on the money spending plan, it causes stress, causes divorce. Coincidentally, it leads to children with unhealthy relationships with money and spending. What do I mean by that? If your children see you running around in debt all the time, stressed and fighting, you'll hear your children say things like, well, in my second marriage, I will do this differently. And I say that from experience because I had a friend like that as a teenager. She said to me, well, in my second marriage, I'm going to do this. I said, why don't you do it right the first time? This is the unhealthy relationship that will cause your children. Lost opportunities. Sorry, folks. Lost opportunities. Debt prevents you from investing. If you're spending money on debt, you cannot invest in opportunities. For example, your car note. I'll show you how this is true. Your car note's going to cost you over $5 million. We'll show you the math on it. It's crazy. Here's the big thing. If you don't have money, if you are poor and broke, how can you help anyone else? You have to get this under control. You have to avoid the consumer debt and be smart with this. Right. According to debt.com survey, 507 divorced Americans September 2025 survey, 42% say credit card debt, overspending, major factor in their divorce. Credit card spending, overspending, major factor in divorce. Goes back to what we said before, debt causes divorce. 37% admitted they hid credit card debt from their spouse. What else can we term this? This is financial infidelity. You're hiding from your spouse your spending. This is a terrible, terrible way to live. It will cause a divorce eventually, or at the very least, a very, very damaged marriage for the rest of your lives, and cause your children to have a very unhealthy viewpoint on this. Because again, back to my point, they talk about in my second marriage or my third marriage, which has become so normal today. We don't want that. 33% saw their household income drop more than 25% 1 year. What this means is after they divorced, their household income dropped by 25%. Who can take a 25% hit in their income? Not you can do it as a couple. You can come together, pull your resources, make it happen. On your own, though, man, tough. And this disproportionately affects female divorcees. Women, you get divorced, this is going to hit you a lot harder. Men can tend to go and out earn that. Doesn't work as well for women statistically. So on that happy note, we'll do more of this. According to a survey from Investment News in February 2024, 526 divorcees. 1/3, 33%, said credit card debt and financial infidelity, hiding spending and debt was critical factor in their divorce. That means when we have a problem with debt in our marriages, 33% of those people that get divorced are going to say is because of financial infidelity. 70% of that group said credit card debt was the reason for the divorce. They went on to say their partner had committed financial infidelity. Credit cards. Why is credit card spending such a bad thing? Statistically, when you use a credit card, you don't feel the pain. And coincidentally, you end up spending more because you don't feel the pain. You didn't see that money leave your account. You didn't see that cash exchange. Psychologically is, I got something for free. And you tend to spend more by about 25%. So why do you think you get so many credit card offers in the mail all the time? They know this. They know us exactly how this operates. They've done the psychological analysis on society and how this works. They're going to push hard so you spend more money. 38% said they took on at least $10,000 in additional debt because of their divorce. That means they got divorced. They had debt as a family, but they got more debt now that they're divorced. So not only did your marriage get destroyed because of debt, and you go through that process, at the end of the day, you each have more debt and less ability to function in society. 37% are now responsible for debt that used to be shared. Sucks. Consumer debt, if not properly addressed, will lead to financial infidelity, which will lead to divorce. I can't stress this enough. This stuff will cause a divorce. It will break up families. We see it every day in America today. Hard note example. All right, would it surprise you to know that the average car payment in America today is around $600 a month or $7,000 a year? The Permian Basin, West Texas, is probably more like $1,200 a month based on some of those trucks we see. So at the end of 7 years, you paid maybe $49,000 plus a down payment for about $2,500 or 5% down. Now you have a 7-year-old car with 84,000 miles on it, worth about $13,000 or 26% of what it was, if in good mechanical order, right? If you invest $7,000 a year in a Roth IRA, earning an average 11%, which by the way, 11% a year is about the average what the S&P 500 does year on year for its 80 some odd year history. So it's pretty accurate. From the age of 20 to 65, you have 6.9 million. So you take the same amount as a car payment from the age of 20 to 65, and if you do that your entire life, you have lost the opportunity to have 6.9 million in a retirement account. Let me hit that home. You've lost $6.9 million to have in a retirement account. If you were just from the age 20 to 27, that 7-year car note, that's $68,482 if you invested that. What was it before? 49, 50, 51, 50, about $52,000 for a car. And at the end of 7 years, if you just invested that, you would have had 68,000. So you've lost $10,000 in those 7 years.
What am I going to drive?
By you
Walk?
if you got to. The question is, do you got to walk? You got to walk, whatever. So you're gonna do what you got to do, right? But the reality is, we just need a vehicle to get us from point A to point B. Is it nice it's got streaming service stuff? Sure. Is it nice that it's got air conditioning that works? Especially in summer here, yes. Is it a necessity? If you're in a dire situation and you just need wheels to get from A to B, it doesn't matter. As long as that thing runs and gets you A to B, that's what you got to do temporarily. And as you can, save up, you upgrade. But yes, 7 years of this, you've lost $10,000 in retirement. So let's say you just did that 7-year deal where you pay the car and say, okay, I'm getting smart. So from the age of 27 to 65, you invest. You're only going to end up with $3.2 million. So how much money we lost in that 7 years? We've lost $3.5 million or so. So my point is these car notes, which is the biggest, most common normie thing you can do in America today, is to have a car note constantly. It's going to cost you millions. And I'll tell you a great story about this. I worked with a guy for a lot of years. And one day I was shopping for tires. Truck needed new tires. He asked me, what are you doing? Looking for tires. And he goes, oh, I've never bought tires for my vehicle before. This is a 60-year-old man. And I said, what do you mean you've never bought tires for a vehicle? Oh, I just trade them off before I need new tires. This guy, his entire life, was trading in a vehicle about every 3 years. So he didn't have to put new tires on. This guy lost over $6 million in potential retirement because he just wanted something new and flashy. He didn't want to deal with maintenance. I spent $1,000 every few years on new tires because I like nice tires. This guy, it wasn't worth $6 million. So again, what we do, what we spend, the debt we carry has long-term consequences down the road. Get your mic, sir.
So this begs the question, right? I mean, if I want to, if I need wheels, and then it's a nuanced question because um, is it okay that I drive top end? What's the top end for
Like a King Ranch sort of thing?
King Ranch?
Sure.
Okay, or can I get away with a Ford same year, the bottom of the rung? This F-150, and I guess those are subtle questions, right? Because some of us, we like our heated seats, and some of us, we do like. Maybe I want to drive a Corvette instead of a Camry, right? And so I guess there's this spectrum, right? I mean, I can go with a Toyota Camry that I can get for I don't know $5,000 that still everything seems to be running for a while, or I can get a brand new Camry, or I can get a brand new Corvette. There's this wide range of things, and so I'm kind of chipping away at what I'm losing by buying a not a King Ranch, but just a regular whatever F-150 is, and then what if I buy an older F-150? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
that's what I was going to get to.
oh, you get to that?
Yeah. Well, no, in your question, that's what I was thinking of. It doesn't matter what you buy as long as it's within your price range, right? So if your plan, your budget for that vehicle is, call it $8,000, and you've got $8,000 cash saved up for it, doesn't matter if you buy the King Ranch or the cheap one, the lower model, whatever, in that spectrum, as long as dollar wise it makes sense. And I'm a great example of that. I've got a 2000. Currently, I drive a 2008 F-150 XLT. Nothing. I mean, it's nice. There's nothing real fancy about it, but it's an older truck. I went and bought a new truck, a 2006 Lariat. Got all the creature comforts. Again, price range is the same kind of price point, but I've got the creature comforts. You just got to be comfortable with putting a little maintenance in these things and driving something that isn't brand new. And so that's what it is, you can make those choices if you want. You can drive the Corvette, but as long as it's within your budget for that vehicle and meets what you need it to do, right? But everyone good with that? Hey, question girl. My daughter has decided that this mic runner thing is not fun anymore.
Don't they say something that, like, if you were gonna get a new vehicle, like, driving it off the lot, you already lose
Oh yeah.
it's already lost its value to a
You
certain
you
but
lose like
you wanna buy
10,000.
used vehicles regardless, but you can buy a newer old one
Mhm.
or, like you say, with whatever your price range
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's a bad investment probably to buy one off the lot, brand new.
If you're looking at investment and save money, yeah, it is. Now, here's the flip side, folks. If you don't have debt and you got cash in the bank and you got a considerable net worth, you want to go buy a $50,000 vehicle, $80,000 vehicle brand new off the lot, go for it. But you got to be comfortable with the fact if I lit that $80,000 on fire and burned it, it's not going to affect my financial outcome anyway, and it doesn't give you a lot of heartburn, then you can do it. But if you go to do that, if in that image, I'm going to light this on fire and burn it, and it gives you heartburn, don't buy the new vehicle. Go a couple of years. You can get a really good vehicle that's 3 years old for 50% off new easily. Right? So yeah, you're right. I mean, you drive a new vehicle off the lot and it loses $10,000 as it hits the street right there because they're not going to buy it back from what you just bought. Good with that? All right. One person gives freely yet gains more, another withholds what is right, only to become poor. A generous person will be prosperous, and one who gives others plenty of water will himself be given plenty. This is the giving aspect. Debt prevents you from being able to give. Being able to give robs you of the ability to be generous with your time, talents, and money. If you're serving the lender and not God, you don't life doesn't go well for you. You are struggling constantly to make ends meet, struggling constantly to pay off a debt. And you can't be generous with your talent time because guess what you're doing? Every spare moment you've got, you're trying to make money to pay off the debt. So it's really important that we get this under control as a people. Do not go into debt so we can be generous with our times, our talents, our finances. That's really what this is about. Because again, debt causes stress, causes money fights, which lead to divorce, which lead to children who have unhealthy relationships with money, which leads to lost opportunities where you can't invest and you can't give. I know this seems like I might have duplicated this slide by accident. This was on purpose. This is so important. We have to understand this when it comes to debt. All right. I've got debt. Now what? There's really only one way to pay off debt, and that is to be very intentional with how you attack paying these things off. And the idea is to pay it off as quickly as possible. We don't want to be in debt forever. We don't want to walk our way out of debt. We want to run out of debt as fast as we can. If you're going to play sophisticated interest games, it's not going to work when it's a behavior issue. You'll hear people often say, well, the financial experts, right? Well, pay off the high interest first. That's important. And then you can work at low interest because it's costing more money. Mathematically, that is correct. However, it doesn't change the behavior. You got into debt because you had a behavior that wasn't working out to begin with. You were spending in such a way that you maybe inadvertently you thought that that was just what you had to do. And so therefore you get trapped in this game of, well, I'm going to move things around. I'm going for the 0% interest. I'm going to do all these financial sophisticated things. And it doesn't work because when you look up a year later, you're not further ahead, you're further behind. You haven't changed the behavior. So step one, get mini emergency fund. If you're in debt, mini emergency fund. I know, and a lot of us know, there's some of these financial advisors would say $1,000 start for an interest mini emergency fund. That was put in place in 1995. Okay, 1995, $1,000 is pretty good. I'm telling you right now, $1,000 doesn't mean anything currently. I mean, I can blow $1,000 in food easily between my family of four. I could probably do better than that if I actually cranked it down. But I would say somewhere between whatever comfortable between 1 and 3,000 for an initial mini emergency fund to start on your debt journey. Okay, list all your debts, smallest to largest, total value. So, you know, just the smallest amount to the largest amount. Rank them. Don't worry about interest rates. We're changing behavior. We do not care about interest rates. We are changing behavior. Figure out what the minimum payments are on everything and pay the minimum payments except for the smallest debt. That will we tack with a vengeance. Yeah. So you just want to attack that smallest one with a vengeance. Put everything you can towards it. As you pay off the smallest, then you move up to the next smallest, and then the next one, and the next one. What happens is this is what changes your behavior. This helps you get in the habit of looking at it in such a way where you're going, okay, I'm going to focus all my energy on this. And you knock it out. And guess what? It's a victory. You got rid of it. It's gone. That car note is gone. And psychologically, you go, I can do this. Now you got momentum. This is possible. Then you go to the next one and you work at that. You put all your pain in there and everything extra and you pay that off. And this is how you work through this. Questions about that before we go on? Hey, runner. Nope. Let's ask questions.
So we only have a mortgage as our only debt, but I mean it's 180,000.
Mhm.
But then we're also we're outgrowing. This is not going to be our forever home. There's no way. I've got 5 kids in a 3 bedroom. Um, so the plan, we looked at putting money towards that, but we figured it might almost be better to save that as a down payment and be able to sell the house and roll that into the payment on the new mortgage whenever it comes time. Would you advise that we expedite paying off the current mortgage or continue with just the minimum?
Okay. Great question. It doesn't matter. So here's the point. If you put all your money into your current house towards paying it off, one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to sell it and roll all that money that you have in that house to the next down payment of the new house, right? Or you spend enough time in there that you just end up paying off that house anyways. So either way, it doesn't really matter. You can put it all in there and pay it off or pay it down a lot and use all that equity for your next home. Or you can just pay what you're supposed to be paying and try to save on the side for an extra down payment. Either way is fine, as long as your behavior is under control and you don't go, oh, that's a nice boat fund right there all of a sudden. That's the risk, right? People that don't have the behavior under control will look at that huge amount building up. There's 50,000. They're going, I'm gonna buy that nice little chunk of land outside of town, and I could do this and I could do that. And so what you're saving for a house payment, you just blew on something that really you're not at the stage of your life that you should be doing that kind of stuff. It's okay to have properties. Good enough. It's okay to have boats and RVs and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's in line with where you're at in your finances. Does that make sense? Yeah. Let's say that question again. Oh,
Are
go
you
ahead.
saying save it till later?
No, state it again.
Oh, state it again. Okay. So if he took the money and went ahead and paid towards the home, he does two things. One, he insures himself against himself, right? It keeps himself from buying that new shiny thing or
Yeah.
whatever. You've made a decision; it's committed at that point. The other thing is he is saving on interest, right? So
Right.
there isn't it's not uncalculated. It is actually calculable, um, because the majority of the minimum payment on a 30-year mortgage is interest, at least for the first 10 years or so.
Absolutely.
Right. So he would be saving a lot more money paying it down. He'd be, if you just want to do the math side of it, right? I'm not disagreeing with you. I am challenging though the idea from a dollar and cent standpoint, um, and even from a behavioral standpoint, it keeps you from going and spending that money on something else, and it also saves you some more money on the interest.
No,
Because even if the mortgage is a low interest rate, right? Even if it, let's say you refinanced in COVID and got a, you know, a 3% interest rate or whatever, what people don't realize is even at 3%, it's actually closer to 10 for the first 10 years. It doesn't seem that way, but it actually is. So tell me if I'm wrong.
no, that's a great point. You're right. I mean, you're forcing yourself into that decision of not, um, or sorry, of putting it all to your house, and you're not putting it aside where you could potentially spend it on something else. And yeah, you are saving an interest. The sooner you get it paid off, the less interest you pay. So yeah, that's a great point.
Even if it doesn't pay it off.
Yeah.
Calculate
Monthly.
and the money that you're putting in there, you just need to be sure that you don't have an early penalty payment and that it's actually going for principal, not
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing about American mortgages is, yes, you want to verify you don't have an early payment penalty, but 99% of them don't have that anyway. So that's which is really nice. But yeah, you do want to verify those things. You have a question, Steve? Oh, you got a question. Okay.
Where's the history?
No history.
You
Okay.
said that it's gonna be the
Come on. Over to Steve, please.
Okay, so let's say like your only like really thing of debt is like your mortgage, right?
Yep.
Like let's say you get like extra money from like a bonus or something like that. What would be like the idea of like, okay, say you may in one hand want to put more into like investments or something like that, or like paying off like the principal? Like what would be the thinking behind that
Yeah.
decision?
So for me, if I get a bonus, like my only debt's my mortgage, I am going to most likely pour as much of that into my mortgage unless there's something specific I'm saving for, then I might split it to a certain percentage. It's really a personal decision what you wanna do. Obviously, financially, it's better to pour it all into your mortgage and get it paid off earlier, but if you have other goals too, you gotta kinda evaluate that.
Like is paying off the mortgage more valuable than like investing it like in like a R like an IRA or something like that? Or
Yes and no. I think, honestly, the way I would look at it is if your house is paid off, the only thing you gotta beat every year is the taxes on it. And you can pretty much go work at Walmart minimum wage and pay your taxes on it to live on a starvation budget if you don't have a mortgage payment. So I think long term, it's probably better to pay off the mortgage and have and own that house. Um, yeah, investments can potentially outstrip the interest savings and such, but at the end of the day, I think it's probably better to pay off the house and give you some freedom, right? Some flexibility. But any other questions before we move on? Okay, good questions. Homework time. You're gonna go home. You're gonna identify all your debts and list them out. Try using this. Annualcreditreport.com. You get free credit report once a year from the 3 agencies, 3 bureaus. You might be surprised that you got some debt sitting out there you didn't know you had. And it's actually probably good practice about once a quarter or so, just pull report from one agency and then, 3 months later pull from another one just to make sure things are being reported right. Make sure someone didn't steal your social security number and now you've got a car loan in Florida. So when you do this, list all your debts, smallest to largest, in value, and then figure out what the minimum payments are on those debts, and get a plan together. So to review, consumer debt is borrowed money. All it is for the purchase of personal goods and services. You have revolving debt and you have non-revolving debt. Revolving debt, like credit cards. Non-revolving debt, your home loan. Debt causes stress, buddy fights, and lost opportunities. I think we stress that pretty much. The whole thing is debt will just cause divorce. It will cause a lot of problems. Again, they lead to financial infidelity and divorce. Debt will cause you to lose big on opportunities. Think the car note, folks. 6 million is your car note. Is your car worth $6 million in retirement? You gotta ask that question honestly to yourself. You can't focus. You can't give and focus becomes of serving the lender instead of God. We spend all our time spending servicing our debts. We don't focus on the right things. There's really only one good strategy paying off the debt, and it's really fast and changing your behavior, not uh, playing sophisticated money games. And with that, those are two sources. Your budget source. Try the credit bureaus to see if you got everything accounted for in your debts. And with that, questions, comments, concerns. We're gonna ask that question here in the microphone.
What was your final verdict on using credit cards?
Yeah. So if you are going to, if you have a spending problem and you're trying to change behaviors and everything, don't use them. It causes you to spend more. Now, this is where I deviate. I personally deviate a little bit from some of the more conservative teachings. Full disclosure, I have a couple credit cards. I have an American Express, help with all my travel stuff because I travel quite a bit, and it's really nice sitting in a Centurion Club instead of the general airport. Okay, I mean, really, it's nice. And I have the other credit card, Visa. The reason why I do that is because with hotels, with car rentals and such, they require a credit card. Very few will let you function off a debit card. There are some out there. It can be done, but that's why I have them. Again, that in my budget though, when I know what I'm spending on that, it's paid off immediately. It's not something that I just let sit out there and then pay off at the end of the month and go, "Oh, shoot, I just started putting a bunch of groceries on there or something and didn't account for it in my budget." You gotta if you're gonna use them, you gotta account for them. But my suggestion is if you are trying to get your behavior under control, your spending under control, do not use them.
What?
Hey, so what is your, like, advice or guidelines, like, when you are getting a house? And most people, I think, probably can't afford to buy one cash.
No.
So, I mean, we did follow the Dave Ramsey, like, I don't know, what, 25% of your income or
Yeah, he usually
put a
he
certain percent down and then like a
yeah.
15-year versus 30 or whatever, but curious on your advice.
Yeah. So your house payment, rent payments, whatever it is, should ideally be around 25% of your take home income. This prevents you from being house poor and spending too much of your income on housing. It can creep up to about 33% or so. It's a little the more obviously the bigger your housing payment is, it's the less money you got to do other stuff, right? So I would try and keep it around that 25% of your take home income as your target. And when I say house payment, it's payment, taxes, insurance. That's how I calculate it out because people often forget. Well, they look at it and they go, "Oh, I got this house and it's 30% of my take home. That's great." Not realizing there's still another 5,000 a year on taxes. There's another 2,000 a year on insurance on that thing. Now that 30% gets way out of whack. So I'd caution you and just try to incorporate all of that into your housing payment. Good. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. We're done this week, so go home to your homework and we'll reconvene next week. Thanks.